Hi guys, it's Quinn here. With AI content becoming more prevalent, it's becoming harder and harder for real narrators to be seen by the algorithm. If you want to support this channel, hit the like button, leave a comment. Also consider supporting us on Patreon, linked in the description. The Xeelee Sequence is a science fiction series by Stephen Baxter that explores the far future, advanced alien civilizations, and the ultimate fate of the universe. It's known for its hard science fiction elements, the vast cosmic scale, and the deep exploration of physics. The Xeelee are a near godlike race and are the most advanced beings in the series, engaging in a war that spans billions of years and multiple universes. That being said, the first book in the series, Raft, has nothing to do with the Xeelee. Raft, first released in 1991, opens up in a harsh industrial world where humanity struggles to survive in a universe with extreme gravity. This story begins in the Belt, which is a decaying mining settlement orbiting a dead star, where the workers live in brutal conditions. This dead star is inside of a nebula that contains air that is breathable by humans. The main character, Reese, starts questioning why the world around him is failing, why the sky is red, why the foundries, these massive industrial structures in which workers process mined iron from the dead star under extreme gravity, are beginning to collapse. And also, very important, why food is losing its nutrients. There were odd things about the world around him that didn't make sense and didn't seem to have an explanation that anyone could give. The air of the nebula was always stained blood red. A corner of his mind tried to measure. Was it deeper than last shift? While his eyes flicked around the objects scattered through the nebula above and below him, the clouds were like handfuls of grayish cloth sprinkled through miles of air. Stars fell among and through the clouds in a slow, endless rain that tumbled down to the core. The light of the mile-wide spheres casting shifting shadows over clouds, the scattered trees, the huge blurs that might be whales. Here and there he saw a tiny flash that marked the end of the star's brief existence. A turning point in the story happens when Reese interacts with the digging machine called Mole. When he mentions that the sky is redder than before, the machine attempts to answer him, and what it tells him is terrifying. "Mole," he said. An articulated metal arm unfolded from the nose of the mole, a camera fixed on him. The sky looked a bit more red today. The transfer of nodules was not slowed, but the small lens stayed steady. A red lamp somewhere on the prow of the machine began to pulse. "Please input spectrometer data." "I don't know what you're talking about," Reese said. "And even if I did, I haven't got a spectrometer." "Please quantify input data." "I still don't understand," Reese said patiently. For further seconds, the machine studied him. "How red is the sky?" Reese opened his mouth and hesitated, stuck for words. "I don't know. Red? Darker, not as dark as blood." The lens lit up with a scarlet glow. "Please calibrate." Reese imagined himself to be staring into the sky. "No, not as bright as that." The glow scaled through a tight spectrum, through crimson to a muddy blood color. "Back a little," Reese said. "There, that's it, I think." The lens darkened. The lamp on the prow, still scarlet, began to glow steady and bright. Reese was reminded of the warning light on the winch equipment and felt his flesh crawl under its blanket of weight. "Mole, what does that light mean?" "Warning," it said in its flat voice. "Deterioration of environment. Life-threatening. Access to support equipment recommended." Reese understood threatening, but what did the rest of it mean? What support equipment? "Damn you, Mole! What are we supposed to do?" But the mole had no reply. Patiently, it continued to unload its pannier. This moment is crucial because it confirms that something is fundamentally wrong with the nebula. Beyond just failing machinery or bad luck, there were hidden secrets in his world. Secrets about the past, about their own origin, and about the true nature of the universe they lived in. The realization that the nebula itself could be deteriorating suggests that humanity's survival is at risk, and the answers might lie beyond the belt. The events of the last few shifts came like pieces of a puzzle to the surface of his mind. This was a tough universe for humans. The implosion had proved that. And now if he understood any of what the mole had said, it seemed that the redness of the sky was a portent of doom for them all, as if the nebula itself were some vast, incomprehensible lamp of warning. A sense of confinement returned, its weight more crushing than the pull of the star kernel. He would never get anyone else to understand his concerns. He was just some dumb kid. His worries were based on hints, fragments, all partially understood. Would he still be a kid when the end came? Scenes of apocalypse flashed through his head. He imagined dimming stars, thickening clouds, the very air souring and failing in his lungs. He had to get back to the surface, the belt, and onwards. He had to find out more. And in all his universe, there was only one place he could go. The Raft. Somehow, he had to get to the Raft. Life in the belt was extremely difficult, and due to several reasons, including the extreme gravity, their lives were shortened. But humans in this nebula did not only live orbiting the dead star, they also inhabited the Raft, a floating city sustained by massive flying trees. In the belt there is a legend of a starship, a vessel that once carried their ancestors across the stars before becoming lost in this strange nebula. Over generations, the details have faded, turning into a myth, but some still whisper that remnants of its knowledge and technology might hold the key to escaping their dying world. The Raft was home to a more privileged and knowledgeable group of people, including scientists and leaders like Captain Myth, who tried to maintain control as resources dwindled. Life in the Raft was far different from the belt. While the miners of the belt toiled under crushing gravity and barely survived their rusted, decaying cabins, the inhabitants of the Raft lived relatively easier lives, though life there was still harsh. The Raft was an enormous dish that brimmed with life. Points of light were sprinkled over its surface like sugar sim over a confectionery. The deck was studded with buildings of all shapes and sizes, constructed of wood panels or corrugated metal and jumbled together like toys. All around the rim, machines as tall as 2 men hulked like silent guardians. And at the heart of the Raft lay a huge silver cylinder, stranded like a trapped whale among the box-like constructions. The Raft was built from fragments of the old starship, and the Raft also contained fragments of the old starship's knowledge, with scientists and leaders who clung to a sense of order. Yet beneath this illusion of stability, the Raft was also dying. Its food dispensers were failing, and its air was also growing thin. Its people, however, were desperate to ignore the inevitable collapse. Outside of the Raft and the belt, there was also a third group of inhabitants of the nebula. Lurking in the depths of the nebula, the bonies are a haunting reminder of what harsh gravity and dwindling resources can do to living creatures. These creatures are skeletal, gaunt, and eerily silent. They drift through the mist, scavenging the wreckage of dead settlements and feasting on whatever remains that they can find. Neither truly human nor entirely alien. They are twisted, starved figures, and their hollow eyes reflect the dim red glow of the nebulous sky. Some believe that they might have once been people, surviving from a time before memory, warped and adapted to the crushing gravity, which is most likely the case. Perhaps they were a vision of what those in the belt and the Raft even could potentially become should their world continue to decay. The bonies rarely hunted in the way that predators do. When it came to the flesh of humans, they lurked at the edges of civilization, feeding on what was left behind. When a body falls and is lost to the void of the nebula, it is the bonies who are there to claim what was theirs. Reese gets to the Raft by way of floating trees, which operate by rotating their thick branches like giant propellers, generating lift and allowing them to stay aloft in the nebula. These trees are naturally drawn to light, and their movement is controlled by tree-like pilots who use fireballs to create shadows and steer them. By manipulating light and darkness, the pilots can guide the trees through the air, making them essential for transporting supplies and people between the belt and the raft. As Reese learns more, he begins to understand that the raft is not the safe haven he had once imagined. It is merely another failing remnant of the past, just like the belt. They finally uncover the truth. Their ancestors had come to this nebula from another universe, brought here when their starship was accidentally pulled into this strange reality. The ship's crew had quickly realized that the laws of physics here were different. Gravity was stronger, and stars burned out more rapidly. The nebula that sustained them was doomed to collapse. Knowing they could never return home, they used the remnants of their starship to build the raft, hoping to survive for as long as possible. But over generations, this knowledge was lost, turning into fragmented myths and half-remembered stories. And now, with the nebula in its final stages, Reese and the group are left with the choice: decipher the lost technology and try to escape, or accept their fate in this dying nebula. Reese, we don't believe the crew intended to bring the ship here. It was probably an accident. As soon as the increased gravity hit, large parts of the ship collapsed, including whatever they used to propel it through the air. They must have fallen into the nebula, barely understanding what was happening, frantically seeking a way to stay out of the core. They attempt to spread this knowledge to the people of the raft, but Reese meets resistance from those like Captain Myth, who prioritizes short-term survival over uncertain solutions. He refuses to believe that the nebula's collapse is imminent, but in the end, the nebula does collapse. Its air turns fully unbreathable. Its light dims. The once floating raft falls into the depths, taking most of its inhabitants with it. This world that had sustained them for generations was always doomed, and those who refused to see the truth perished with it. The floor dipped, screams rose like flames. The passengers clung to each other. Beyond the clear hull, the raft deck rose around the bridge like a liquid, and the raft's gravitational field hauled the passengers into the air, bumping them almost comically against the roof. A crescendo of cries came from the doorway. Need had failed to close the port in time. Stragglers were leaping across the widening chasm between the bridge and deck. A last man clattered through the closing door. His ankle was trapped in the jamb, and Reese heard the shin snap with sickening suddenness. Now a whole family tumbled off the raft deck and impacted against the hull, sliding into infinity with looks of surprise. The novel ends on a hauntingly ambiguous note. Whether they can find a way to escape remains uncertain. The nebula has collapsed. The raft is gone. The belt is doomed, leaving them as the last survivors of a dying world. The knowledge of their ancestors is within reach, but time is running out. The novel leaves readers not knowing what the future will be for these characters. Will they find their way out of this universe? I'll likely cover more books in the Xeelee Sequence in the future. What are your favorites in the series? Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe for more Quinn's ideas.